Hello YouTube, Delta 8330 coming at you with a video about kind of not a model airport, not a model unboxing, not an aviation video as far as charts go, but this is more about an issue that is particularly close to me. I'm from Milwaukee originally, so this really takes effect to me and it really gets to me as far as personal issue. Um, I really understand this more than a lot of people do, and I just want to spread the word of really what's going on with my hometown airport and and in order to understand that, you guys got to understand what happened to my hometown airline, which was Midwest. Um, that's what you guys first, because the two go hand in hand. Milwaukee's airport was really heavily um, dependent on Midwest, and vice versa. So in order to understand the effects of on the airport that this is all having, you gotta understand what happened to Midwest. So, without further ado, let's get started on the video. So it's can't talk. It's titled "The Dilemma of KMKE." Um, well, the collapse of Midwest, the botched frontier experiment, and the effects of the Southwest Air Chan merger. And there's a picture of the Milwaukee Airport Tower. So we'll start off with the Midwest Express days. As some of you guys know, Midwest was originally called Midwest Express. They started off as kind of like a JetBlue type airline, lots of great service. This was back in the days when airlines were doing really, really well. Along with other airlines, Midwest was doing well, and they operated a fleet of DC-9 aircraft, and with those aircraft, they had an entire first-class cabin. One of their slogans was "Everybody flies first class." Great food. I mean, it was all gourmet, and it truly was the best care in the air, and they lived up to that standard on every flight that they flew. Their regional service was serviced by Skyway Airlines, who operated a fleet of Dornier 328 jets and a fleet of Beech 1900D turboprops. In 2003, Midwest changed their name to Midwest Airlines because the term express had started to be associated with the regional airlines. So the reason I say it's more than a name change is because around this time, you could tell the first little bits are starting to crumble off of Midwest. They started to have more job cuts. The service was slightly retarded. I don't mean that in like they're like somebody's retarded. I mean retard as in just like go down. I don't want to offend anybody. It's just I'm using the word as a verb. I'm sorry. Anyway, back to the presentation. There's a Dornier 328. As you can tell, it's in the Midwest Connect colors, which was the Skyway Airlines planes were repainted in this after the name change. And then there's a couple of 717s. Also around this time, all the DC-9s were getting retired from Midwest, and so were the some of the MD-80s that they had. And they were replacing them with 717s. So even with some job cuts, Midwest was still doing pretty well at this time. However, now we start to see some first big changes. In 2006, it is announced that SkyWest Airlines will begin operating on behalf of Midwest Connect. By 2008, Skyway Airlines has ceased operations and all Midwest Connect flights were operated by SkyWest. So, the story of Midwest has a lot to do with the outsourcing for lower cost labor. The first one happened in 2006 when Midwest signed that contract with SkyWest. Skyway Airlines was really pretty much a part of Midwest. They were both based in the same little town. They worked really well together, and Midwest pretty much ran Skyway out of business by signing this contract with a much more powerful regional player in SkyWest. So that was the first part of Midwest that collapsed. And then on the bottom it says instead of all of their seats, saver seats were introduced, essentially a two-class cabin, which goes against that phrase that I mentioned earlier, that slogan, that everybody flies first class. Well, guess what? That's not the case anymore because airlines are starting to feel the pressures. In 2008, Midwest was very, very heavily affected by the fuel price jump, and that also was a big contributor to the collapse of the airline. Okay, attempted takeover and the first merger. So in 2006, AirTran Airways, which at the time had the second largest market share at MKE, unsuccessfully tried to take over Midwest. They offered a bid, but the board at Midwest adamantly denied it. So in 2007, just a year later, a group including TPG Capital and Northwest bought Midwest for $450 million, and Midwest was allowed to continue to operate independently. And this really was a savior for Midwest, because if they hadn't been for this group, they probably would have gotten taken over by a different airline. Um, so basically, but even with this, it still just put off the inevitable that everybody saw coming, and that was that Midwest was going to get taken over by someone. And that's the Republic takeover. So the door was open for the Republic takeover when Midwest was forced to return 16 717s to Boeing because they missed lease payments. They couldn't pay the lease on the aircraft anymore, so they just had to give them back to Boeing. So they basically needed somebody to run those routes that they were losing. So Republic began operating 12 Embraer 170s under the Midwest Connect name, and before you know it, in 2009, Republic Airways formally purchased Midwest Airlines for $31 million, and that's just $1 million over. That's basically 1/15 of what NWA and TPG paid, and this purchase by NWA helped run that Northwest out of business. True outsourcing. After the purchase of all Midwest 9 remaining Boeing 717s, after the purchase, all Midwest 9 remaining 717s were returned to Boeing. The last Midwest flight was Midwest 210 from Boston to Milwaukee. After, all Midwest flights were operated by Republic and SkyWest, but shortly after Republic took over, SkyWest was replaced by Chautauqua, which Chautauqua was is a wholly owned subsidiary of Republic, so another cost saver put in by Republic. The Frontier merge. Shortly after buying Midwest, Republic also bought Frontier, which was based in Denver, and then they merged the two brands under the Frontier name. At first, Milwaukee air travelers had high hopes that a bigger airline serving their home airport would improve routes, but things quickly went sour. This is where the airport itself starts to suffer even greater. I mean, of course, you already had the job cuts that Midwest had made, but now you're having even more because it's gone altogether. And the next slide will explain it more. Frontier's decline at MKE. So after the merge, Frontier operated all of the former Midwest routes out of Milwaukee and inherited the Midwest hub there. And actually, at first, Frontier actually expanded the route network out of Milwaukee. And it made a lot of people very happy for a short period of time. However, it didn't take long for Frontier to see that the Milwaukee hub wasn't being as profitable as they hoped it to be. I mean, they were earning money. It's not like they were losing money, but they just thought that they could make more money elsewhere, and they're probably right, but it's just, I think yeah, you know what I'm talking about. They were profitable, but not as profitable as they hoped to be. So, just to give you a sense of the cutbacks, at the beginning of 2011, Frontier operated 86 daily flights out of Milwaukee. As of right now, today, that number has dwindled to just 7. And by the way, 4 of those 7 routes are 4 daily flights to Denver that already existed before the merger even happened. So, yeah, that gives you a pretty good sense. Frontier's decline continued. As of today, over 2,000 Frontier employees at Milwaukee have been laid off or let go altogether. The Best Care Club on Concourse D has been closed, and the Frontier Maintenance Facility has also been shut down. So, you think, okay, Southwest is here, AirTran's here, AirTran's is a big player at Milwaukee. Are they here to save the day? In a way they are, but there's always a catch. So Southwest and AirTran. With Frontier all but gone, AirTran had the highest market share at Milwaukee. Southwest was third. And keep in mind, Southwest just started flying Milwaukee about a year ago. This merger will create a super airline at Milwaukee, which will lead to higher ticket prices. So, obviously, you have AirTran and Southwest, the first and third airlines at Milwaukee. Delta second at about 20%. This combined airline is going to have over 51% of the market at Milwaukee. That's pretty much monopoly numbers. When you have a monopoly on a market, you exploit it as much as you can. And with Southwest and AirTran, they'll be able to because they're going to offer a lot more flights. People are not going to have a choice. So if they're going to increase ticket prices, very likely, and it's also very likely that the it's just going to get harder to travel out of Milwaukee. And the days of people from Chicago going up to Milwaukee to get a cheaper flight are going to be gone. It's going to be the opposite. So the effects on Milwaukee Airport. Right here, the picture, that's Concourse D. This is where Midwest was based. Now it's Frontier and Southwest, but Southwest is moving to Concourse C, where AirTran is. So that they're basically almost gone from this terminal. And obviously Frontier's cut all those routes, so you can imagine. So traffic in Milwaukee has decreased by nearly 1 million passengers since last year. The once bustling Concourse D, which was home to Midwest, now sits nearly entirely empty. Shanna Ryan owns a big restaurant in the D concourse, a really nice restaurant actually, that they're probably going to have to close. And this is what she said to the JS Online. She said, depending on the time of day, you can literally walk down the concourse and see no one other than airport employees. It literally looks like the terminal is closing down. So you can just imagine having this huge concourse with I think it's like 30 some gates and just have nobody there. It's like a ghost land. All of this is sad for us Wisconsinites, with Frontier eliminating the cookies from their planes 3 months ago, by the way, which they had promised to keep. The last traces of Midwest are gone. So that's the end, pretty much. The video is dedicated to all the former Midwest employees, and then I have a note on the bottom. It says, "Thanks for providing Milwaukee with the best care in the air for 25 years." And it's nobody's really fault. I mean, it's just the industry the way it is right now. But it is really sad to see one of the first of its kind. I mean, JetBlue's whole business model is pretty much based off what Midwest did. The only thing that they did that JetBlue did right that Midwest did not is that JetBlue bought all their airplanes completely brand new, and then they're much more fuel efficient, and they are also in a much bigger city. They actually have a couple of big cities that they serve heavily, which is Boston and New York. And Milwaukee, or Midwest hubs were Milwaukee and Kansas City, and they had a lot of older airplanes that were just not as fuel efficient. And so when the fuel prices went skyrocketing, Midwest just really couldn't keep the airplanes in the air anymore. They started to miss lease payments. They had to return their aircraft, and they couldn't sustain themselves anymore. But if anybody has ever flown Midwest, you guys know that it truly is the best care in the air. And thank you guys for watching. If I remember something that I forgot to mention in the video, I'll leave a comment or put it in the description. Also, if you guys haven't noticed or don't know, Republic right now is actually trying to get rid of Frontier because Frontier continues to lose money even after the closing of the Milwaukee hub. So just an overall field experiment for Republic. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. Please remember to comment, rate, subscribe. This is Delta 30, and once again, thank you for watching.